Dr. Alfie, thank you so much for joining Redesigning Life.
Thank you
I'm
for
s-
having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I have a list of questions I want to get to, but before I get started, because sometimes on the podcast I get so excited about guests that I just start asking questions. And if you can be so kind, can you introduce yourself to my listeners?
Of course. So it's nice to be here with you. I'm actually honored that you all thought that I had something to share, and I'm just really happy to be here. My name's Dr. Alfiee Breland-Noble. Everybody calls me Dr. Alfie. I am a psychologist. I've been in this field for, at this point, close to 30 years. It might be a little bit more than 30, and I love talking about all things mental health, all things related to diverse people, because I really am about inclusivity. All of us, I feel like all of us have a space in this mental health conversation. I was talking to someone earlier and they were saying, and they were speaking my language. Her name's Mina. I just met her today. And she was saying there are too many, I don't have enough words for all the stuff I do. So I do a whole lot of stuff, but I'll say I founded a nonprofit. One of the big things that happened to me this year is I was named one of Melinda French Gates' 12 people, a dozen people who she calls global leaders, and we were each gifted with a $20 million fund. Each of us has 20 mil, and we're tasked with putting that money out into the world to do good. And I have a good friend, his name is James S. And I'll say this about me and my work. With all the hats that I wear, I got this from him, so I want to credit him. I think the thing that's most important to me is not about who I am and what my job is. One of the most important things to me is what is my purpose on this planet and what can I give to the world? And I feel like for me, what I can give to the world is my love, my light, and I talk about love, light, and science in the context of mental health. So a bunch of hats, all a lot of different things, which we'll get into, but it really is a pleasure and a joy to be here with you today.
I'm so excited. Yes, you're a psychologist, an author, a scientist. You're a trailblazer in mental health, wellness, and suicide prevention too. And I know you, in your work, discuss a lot about the kids not being all right. And I was saying earlier, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I know that being a girl is one thing, but I remember having to deal with these mental issues later on in my life, and now I see it happening to her and her friends at school, and I feel like there's just uh, a trend of this anxiety happening at a younger and younger age. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you think it's social media, what do you think is the issue that's happening right now that's causing so much pressure for these younger kids?
I think it's a number of things. One of the things that I really believe it is the lexicon and the language around mental health. Our young people are introduced to it so much earlier. I'm Gen X than we were, and I think if you think as look at millennials and older millennials, I think earlier than they were introduced to it too. So like Gen Zers and young millennials, they are getting this knowledge and language so much earlier. I mean, it's just everywhere.
Because our
Um,
parents didn't talk about it. My parents are both from Cuba. So I come from 2 immigrant parents. We did not talk about mental health when I was younger. I mean, I talk about it with my parents now, but it just wasn't we didn't discuss it. I don't even think they had the language.
No, no, they probably didn't, and I think for those of us who have those backgrounds where we come from what in this country would be marginalized communities, because clearly they weren't marginalized in Cuba, right? Because everybody was Cuban. But you get here and there's a whole other set of issues. I have a mentor, she actually was a sponsor for me, Dr. Margarita Alegria, and Maggie's Puerto Ricana. And she taught me about this idea of the immigrant paradox. And so it's like the longer families are here in the United States, the worse the mental health outcomes, right? So when they're in their
Why?
countries of, because the countries of origin, they're not 100% safe, but at least everybody looks like you. Like in Cuba, everybody habla español, mi español está mal, you know what I mean? But like there are things that you don't have to talk about with your culture because everybody understands it about your culture. And then you come to a new country, nobody gets it, right? And so for a lot of people, I think for immigrant communities, there's this idea of trying to hold on to the culture of origin, but then you have kids here, or maybe you immigrate with kids as they grow up, they have another culture, and then that next generation after them is like a third culture. So it's I think there's some of that there. I also think for older generations, I always like to talk about they were too busy trying to survive, right? You
Right.
think about what your parents probably went through when when they first immigrated, and how different that is from your own experience. And they didn't really have time to sit and pontificate and think. You know what I mean? Like, they just didn't have time. So one of the best phrases I ever heard was this young Filipina years ago, and she said what her parents said to her about mental health was, "That's first world problems."
Ooh,
Think about that. That's
wow.
how many communities, particularly marginalized communities, look at mental health. We don't have time for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I heard that too as a
Yes.
African American. It's like, we ain't got time for that. So there was no space for them to really do it, where we have the luxury and the benefit and the gift of actually being able to engage in these conversations. And so we give the benefit to our younger ones of having the language and being able to talk with us as their parents about what they're experiencing, their feelings and their emotions when we didn't necessarily have that.
You're right. Actually, my daughter the other day said, I don't feel right. And I said, explain it to me. And she walked me through it. And I remember as a child, I was sitting on the stairs of our house and I felt like a balloon was being filled in my chest, but I couldn't necessarily explain. As an adult now, I understand that's anxiety. So I could tell her that that's what it is. But I wish it was, I had a name for it as a child. So I guess it's a good thing that they have the language, but, it's still now, I mean, I know I am getting to that part of my life that I sound like my mother, but but I fear for these kids with this. I already remembered being bullied in junior high, like, with on top of that, social media as a tool
Yep.
that these kids can use.
Yep.
How can we protect our children with everything that's whirling around in this world?
I love that question. I think what I try to tell parents and caregivers is it starts with us, right? So we think it's like immediately dive in and start talking to your child, but I think we have to have the tools. So as the adults and caregivers and parents in their lives, the first thing we have to do is understand and identify what is our level of comfort. We're talking about our emotional well-being and our mental health. How do we do that? Do we model? Because with your 9-year-old, my kids are 18 and 20. They pay attention to what we do. I have this wonderful picture of my daughter. She's a 20-year-old. She must have been 3 or 4. And her hair standing up all over her head. And she's meditating. She's like this with one of my jackets on from work. And I love the picture because she was imitating me because I meditate. I've been doing it for too long to count, 15, 20 years. And I modeled that for her, but this is what I do. And so if you don't have anybody modeling it for you, how do you know what you're supposed to do? So I think once we're comfortable, we can talk with our young people, we can inquire, we can take the lead and really encourage them to talk about their feelings. We can teach them feeling words, we can share books with them. We can talk about our own feelings. We can watch TV shows and movies together. Everybody loves Bluey. They talk about feelings on Bluey. You know what I mean? And so I think it's some of those things. And then once we develop that skill and language, and we model for our young people, it's our job to check in with them and to regularly talk with them about their own emotional well-being and mental health and really encourage them to open up, encourage them to share, encourage them to remember that there's nothing they can't come to us with, that they always need to know that the door is open for us to listen, and we should always be the first line of defense for them, but we have to be safe. We have to model safety. We have to show our young people, I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to use these 2 ears to listen and not this one mouth to speak. I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to put my device down and I'm going to focus. And so those are some of the things that I like to encourage. And then the one thing I love to share, a practical tool that was taught to me years ago. When your child comes home from school or summer camp or daycare, whatever the case may be, instead of asking your child, how was your day? Because you and I both know what the answer is. Oh, it was fine,
Fine.
right? Whatever. I say, I've heard people say Dr. Oh my gosh. I can't think of her name. She's at Hunter College and I love her. Dr. Miranda, Regina Miranda. She says roses and thorns. Tell me a rose in your day today. Tell me a thorn in your day
I do the
today.
same thing. I do valleys, peaks, and valleys. Every night when we're having dinner, what was the peak of the day and what was the valley?
You got it. So that's it. That's all I was going to say. Like, just to use a tool like that to foster communication. And it just teaches your child how to communicate. And that's a life skill, not just for your family. That's a life skill forever for your child. Think of how many of us who are in any kind of relationship, whether it's interpersonal, a work relationship, an intimate relationship, where communication is a barrier. I mean, just being able to express yourself. And that's what we're
Yes.
trying to teach our young people is how to express themselves.
But then you're saying earlier, and this is, I'm being selfish and asking just for me, but I'm sure somebody who's listening is gonna get something out of it. I tell Olivia, "You can tell me anything. You come to me, if you tell me the truth, you're not gonna get in trouble." But and it's fine now, she's 9, but what happens when she's a teenager and she does something, hopefully she doesn't, but if it's something catastrophic that she needs to get in trouble, quote unquote,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
not watching this, how do you as a parent sort of balance that out of making sure they're not scared to tell you something, but you also have to be a parent?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that starts, like you to your point, much earlier. And I think for some parents, I'm not saying it's all parents, I'm not saying it's all caregivers. I think sometimes we can fall into the trap of being our child's best friend. I think you can, but there's a way to do it where you still maintain the boundaries of the relationship. So to me, it comes down to one word or two words: healthy boundaries. So I can be the person you come to talk to. I can be the person you open up to. I also need to be the person who sets rules, who sets a structure, who sets a framework, who sets parameters that you have to operate within as my child. And so I think the idea is getting in trouble. I'm not going to berate you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to hit you. We have to be comfortable with knowing that there's a healthy way to parent, right? There are healthy things that we can do to show our anger, right? You can show anger without screaming at somebody. You can
That's
show
right.
anger without being using abusive language. So I think it really is reminding our children, yes, I'm here for you. Yes, I'm going to listen. And after I know that you're safe, let's say you crashed a car, that actually happened. It was a minor scratch. As long as I know you're safe, then we can take the time to deal with consequences. But the first thing I'm going to do with you is say to you, look, I'm going to listen. You explain it to me. I won't interrupt. And yes, mommy or daddy or whomever might be upset, but even in my upset, I know how to parent you in a way that you'll still feel loved, you'll still feel seen, you'll still feel heard, but we still got to deal with this thing that you did. So I think it is setting the stage appropriately and remembering those two words, healthy boundaries. You got to be a parent. It's okay to be your child's BFF, but there's a way to do it that doesn't undermine your authority as a parent or a caregiver.
Yeah, that it's a question I sometimes remember. I mean, I was kind of scared of my parents growing up, and I guess there's like something to be said about that, but it's like that fine line of having the respect of your children but also being their best friend, and I feel like we're all trying our best. I mean, as an expert in this field, now that you have grown kids, what would, looking back at their adolescence, like what would you have done differently, if anything?
I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have done anything differently, but I know that I was approaching it from the perspective of I knew all the things that I loved about how I was parented as a child, so bringing all that forward, and then the things that maybe not so much I didn't like. I had, over a decade of training and education in the field to, like, pull that apart
Right.
and look at, because this is what I do, so I'm a behaviorist, so I think it was a little different for me. I think if I had to pick one thing I would do differently, I don't know that I would have done anything different
Well,
because I
then,
was a
my
great
God, bravo.
yeah, I was a great listener, I would strategize with them, they knew they could come to me, but again, I say that in the context of this is my field, this is what I do, so, you know what I mean? Had I been
Yeah.
in a different field, there's probably a lot I would do differently, but this is what I study and teach
Yes.
people, so I just used the same stuff I tell people is all stuff that I did myself.
Earlier, you were talking about that you had a sponsor, and I know you've talked about this on your Instagram,
Yeah.
the difference between a sponsor and a mentor, and when I was listening to you talk about it, it's something clicked inside of me, so can you explain it to the listeners? The difference
Sure,
between a
so
sponsor and a mentor?
100%. So I will give credit where credit is due. I first heard this from a woman named Carla Hall. She's like huge in the like
Food
Fortune
space.
100 business. Yeah, she's like a business person. She's great. That's the first time I heard it. But what I put my little own twist on it. So a mentor, I would say, a lot of people have mentors. They pat you on the back, they encourage you, they support you, they give you advice. I think the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is a sponsor not only does all of those things, but they do a lot more in terms of being active in your life. So my analogy is the mentor pats you on the back, tells you you're doing a good job, and says, over there is a door of opportunity. You should go to that door. A sponsor does all of that, but then the other thing that they do that's so powerful is they take your hand figuratively, walk you to the door, open the door, walk you to any table of opportunity, right? They stand by you at the table, they point to you, they look at the people who are decision makers at that table of opportunity, and they say, "This is my person. I'm vouching for them. I need you to give this person a chance, and I'm going to hold you accountable until you give this person a chance." So it's all of those great things of a mentor, but it's so much more active. And what I find is that people who are successful, I think they have at least one or two sponsors in their life because none of us can be successful if the only thing that people do for us is point us in the right direction. You need a little bit more than that. You need
Yes.
support, you need guidance, you need action behind, those good wishes and positive thoughts of a mentor. So that's what I would say the difference is.
And how do you think, especially for younger people coming out of college, not knowing where to start, or even somebody who might be in their 40s or 50s wanting to
Yeah.
start over?
Yeah.
How do you recommend people go about finding a sponsor?
So I think there are only kind of two ways I can think of. The most important way is networking. You have to always be in the mode of making new connections with the people. Now, I will say, even though this is what I do, I think I put all my energy into doing this work. So when it comes to me, my personal life, I don't know that I always have additional energy to like be out there and like go up to people and talk to them because I do it all the time. And
Right.
so I recognize that, but networking is so important. And I think if you can network, the second part of this is organically, you will start to identify of those mentors in your life, of those people you've networked with, you will start to identify the one or two who are willing to be active. So it's really kind of looking at the network you have now and cultivating that sponsorship relationship with someone who seems like they do that for other people. They might be willing to do it for you. So for me, you don't so much create sponsors as you nurture sponsors, as you find sponsors among the people who are already in your orbit. So for me, I'll give you a quick example. There's this one person, his name's Dr. Junius Gonzalez. It just popped up in my head. And when I was an academician, I was a professor. We met through doing some National Institutes of Health work. I won't even get into all of it. But what I found from Junius is after meetings, it happened more than once. He would stop me and just check in on me. So, how are you doing, Alfie? How is this going? How's it going at Duke? How's it going at Georgetown? And we would have these brief conversations. But it was the act of him coming to me and asking me and checking in on me that sort of clicked. I was like, okay, I need to stay in touch with him. And over time, he did a lot of very kind things for me, as a sponsor. He was an active participant in my growth and development. So I think it really is kind of cultivating relationships and identifying people in your network already who you've seen be active for other people. And maybe if you ask, right, and you're kind of consistent and you're polite and gentle and encouraging with that potential sponsor, they might be willing to do that same thing for you.
I love that. I think that's a good idea. In my own life, I forget sometimes to how to if somebody asks me maybe for a recommendation or anyone I know that does this, sometimes I forget. And
Yep.
maybe it's the person right in front of you that could be your best sponsor.
That's it. That's exactly right. You got it.
This show is called Redesigning Life. I think a lot of people in their 40s are listening, people who are trying to maybe restart or they feel a little stuck. How do you think or what advice do you give to your clients? And by the way, if anybody's watching this, you'll see what I'm talking about. But if you're listening to this, Dr. Alfie looks like she's 20 years old. So I can't believe
Hell
you've been
no,
doing
way
this.
past that.
I want to know about your skin routine, but I'll ask you offline. But
So,
you've
yeah,
been
go
doing
ahead.
this for so long.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to people? How do you start redesigning your mental health if you feel like you're in a rut?
Wow, it's such a wonderful question. I clutch my heart because I'm in the midst of redesigning part of my career as we speak. And I think the same tools I use for that, I use for my mental health. I think for me, I'm always like name dropping people because these people have been so important in my life. There was this one Latina way back. She was my psychologist. Her name is Dr. Maya McNeely, sister from South Side of Chicago. She's so cool. And Maya taught me the idea of being in touch with myself. like taking the time. It sounds, I don't know, it may sound a little hokey to people, but it's so meaningful. And I don't think we can redesign until we understand like sort of where we are now. So I think the single most important thing we can do is cultivate self-awareness. That's
Yes.
and self-compassion. We have to start there. I think if we start there are loads of ways to do that. Mine was mindfulness meditation and practicing mindfulness. But if you start there, you can identify for yourself, where am I feeling stuck, right? It's asking yourself those what seem like hard questions, but they're not. We just don't ever slow down enough to give ourselves time to process these questions. So for example, what do I want? What do I like? What do I
Yep.
dislike? If I had $1 million and I had to invest it in myself, my mental health, and or my career, for example, what would I do? If we answer those kinds of questions for ourselves, those become the guideposts and the milestones that we want to achieve. And so I think if we do that with our mental health and we do that with our career, that's where we have to start the process. That's where we can start the process of redesigning our lives. So you can't know what, you can't know your path if you don't know the destination. And I think
Right.
think about it. If you just get on a path, where are you going? You don't know where you're going to end up. But if you have a destination in mind, now you can kind of calibrate and use your emotional and mental GPS to help you move toward that thing. So it's grounding yourself, developing that self-awareness, and identifying for yourself, where do I want to go with my mental health? What's the goal? Where do I want to go in my career? What's the goal? And it is always, always, always extending ourselves grace. I love talking about grace, which is patient, loving kindness. And interestingly, my 20-year-old got a tattoo that says patient, loving kindness because we talk about grace so much. So giving ourselves
Well,
grace.
that's a better tattoo than like a Tweety bird.
Exactly.
I approve that tattoo. There's two things that came up when you just said the last thing, that a psychologist has a psychologist. And why I think that's important is I think a lot of us feel like asking for help is weakness, but I don't feel like we can get to any of the next level of our lives ever without a community. And the community may be a group of people or just one person, but we can't do it alone. So I love that you even recognize yourself that you needed someone objectively to help you. And the second thing is stopping to slow down. I was on the phone with a friend of mine who's very busy all the time the other day, and she was saying she went through a lull of this quiet time in her life, and she got such anxiety, and she felt depressed, and now she's really really busy and she feels better. And I think it's the opposite, though. I think what happened was she had too much time to think. Things started to unwind, and she realized maybe she's not where she wants to be in her life, but now she's busy again, she doesn't have to worry about it. And I feel
You
like a
nailed
lot
it.
of us do that with work, drinking, shopping, video games, fill in the blank. Do you see that in your
Yes.
clients as well?
W Yes, like, literally, yes, you put your psychologist hat on because you just nailed it. I think the busyness helps us avoid.
Yeah.
A lot of people use busyness as what we call in psychology, avoidant coping. If I avoid it, like, I don't have to deal with it,
Yes.
and it can be it doesn't we don't have to sit and do this deep thinking and process all this stuff at once. I think we can pick one thing and say, I'm just gonna work on this thing. Like I happen to be a anxious person too. It runs in my family, like very anxious.
Same.
But I know the thing that I have to do to take care of myself, I have to exercise, girl, every day. And the exercise is not like to be physically fit. That's a good, I don't know, byproduct. But the main thing is I got to get this anxiety off of me because I'll just be heck on wheels. You know what I'm saying? If I don't spin this stuff down, it's just going to wind me up. So you're right. Like you nailed it. I think busyness sometimes helps us avoid, and we don't want to do that. We want to give ourselves an opportunity to process. Because guess what? Not talking about your friend. I'm talking about all these other folks out here who do the same thing. When you wind down the next time, guess what? All that stuff gonna come back, and then it's
That's
gonna be
right.
some more stuff because you didn't process the stuff from the last time. So it's
That's
gonna
right.
be there until we work on it.
I was many years ago, I was in a relationship that wasn't the best relationship. And during that time, I did a sober, curious journey. And after about, I want to say month 5 of not drinking, I started feeling. I thought I was going crazy, but what I realized was I had been numbing all of those feelings of being unhappy for so long,
Yep.
and I never dealt with it that it just came crashing down. And I realized, like, for me, just like I do have to move just like you, but
Yep.
I also have to stop, even if it's 5 minutes of meditation. I don't care if it's in the car. I don't care if it's in the grocery store. Just wherever I have to stop and close my eyes for a minute or a few minutes to ask myself, am I, how am I feeling? What's going on? And then I let I don't know if it's my subconscious or
Yeah.
spirit guides, whatever
Yeah.
you believe in, but I
Yeah.
have to listen to myself. Do you have
Amen.
any mindfulness, like, meditations or practices that you do daily other than working out?
Yes, girl, one of my I have 3 or 4 apps that I love. One is
Yeah, tell us all of them.
yes, I love it, I love it. Thank you for the invitation. One of them is called Insight Timer. I'm
Love
obsessed.
Insight Timer.
Isn't it the best? Okay, and I have to
Love.
find you on it. I have to find you on it. I'm on there. And I'll tell you one of the things I love. My favorite thing is to open the app and see the map of the world with all the dots on it, and the dots represent all the other people who are on the Insight Timer app, also doing something and I like to think, here's this beautiful community of people all over the world, and we're all doing the same thing, right? And so I started thinking about, oh, we're making the world better. We're sending up good vibes. You know what I mean? We're like all here vibing together. So Insight Timer's one. My other favorite, they reached out to me years ago. I think it was right during the pandemic. It's called Breathe, Breathe.
I'm writing that
Love
down.
Breathe. It's
Okay.
fantastic. And I'll tell you this new cool thing they have on the Breathe app is you can curate your own meditation with AI. They have 3 voices. One's British, one's a man, and there's another one that's another woman. And you put in like your meditation or your mantra, and it creates this whole uh meditation 5, 10, or 15 minutes around what you created, which I love because sometimes it's hard for me and then my brain just starts going all over the place to find something that I really like. But if
Yeah.
I create it myself, right? So that's another. There used to be one called Stop, Breathe, Think, but they don't do that one anymore. And then my other real biggie is called Nature Space.
Nature
Nature
space.
Space is literally just sounds in nature, the beach, the forest, the mountains. Do you know what I mean? Like a stream.
I don't
And
know about a stream. That just makes me wanna go to the bathroom.
but that's another one that I use. And I just like to listen to the music, not music, listen to the nature. I'm a Pisces, so I love the water. And
Yeah.
just listen to beaches.
Yes.
And it's just the benefit is here's the trick. Your mind is focused on the sound or the meditation, you know what I mean, or the silence. And because you're focusing actively, it doesn't give your brain space to do all that like monkey mind jump up because you're focusing. And so that's the benefit for me. And those are some of the apps that I love. And but I'm like you. And can I just appreciate you for a moment for saying teaching people that meditation is not just sitting on the floor, all the lights are off in your own, right? I mean, meditation can be, or mindfulness as well. You're at the grocery store, you're walking, you're running. Do you know what I mean? Like you're cooking. As long as your brain is focused on something,
Yes.
it leaves less room for you to let your mind jump all over the place and worry.
Even just a shower sometimes to me, it's where you don't have a phone, don't have another distraction, just being in your own thoughts. It could everyone I mean, everyone takes a shower every day. I mean, everybody should take a shower every day, but I
Yeah.
mean, you have at least those 5 minutes to
Yep.
yourself, even if it's just that. You don't have to sit on a meditation pillow with burning incense and with Palo Santo. You don't have to do all that.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
You got it. And can I just ask? I have to ask this because I feel like I'm alone. If your answer is no, I don't do that, I'm totally fine. I won't be embarrassed. One of the most enjoyable things of my life when my kids were little was going to the grocery store by myself.
I I love it. It's one of my favorite things to
Isn't
do.
it the best?
For me, well, so I am a single mom, and so I have taken Olivia with me to the grocery store a lot, and now when she's with her dad, it's the first thing I do. I just go to the grocery store. I could look in the back of everything and read. I don't have to rush. I could just look at cheeses,
Right? And
I
you
could
can
leave the
just
cheese out for as
breathe.
long as I feel like.
Girl, yes. I would walk in the grocery store. I can vividly remember and just do you know what I mean? Just like walk. And then I think the other thing for me is everything that you said, and there's a sense of accomplishment. I got my grocery list checked and it was like one tiny little thing in the day of a mom with a young person, like a little one. It's the best. So thank you for validating me. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
you are not alone. I that's what I'm doing after you and I finish. There's a new grocery Sprouts just opened up down the street. You
Yes.
would have thought it's like, a rock star was there on the first day it
Oh,
opened.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I
The
get it.
grocery
I get
store.
it. I
I
get it.
love it. Thank you so much for joining me. I will for anyone listening, I will have Dr. Alfie's information in the notes so you can get in touch with her and follow her on Instagram. It was such a pleasure to talk to you today. I got so much out of it. For everyone listening, I hope you got as much out of it as I did. I thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation and just thank you for your lovely spirit and best wishes to your little baby. I know she's a beautiful little princess and best wishes to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.